Hello, everybody. It's happy SEL day to you, social emotional learning. And sometimes there is a lot of confusion. What is social emotional learning? What is SEL? Why does it matter? So I thought I would kind of anchor it by sharing a scenario that I think we can all relate to or imagine or think about. And that's imagine if you're a parent or a guardian and you're dropping your child off at college, at university. They're 18 years old, and you're saying goodbye to them, driving away. What are you gonna be thinking about? Are you going to be thinking, I really hope that their SAT score was perfect and that they really have that deep intelligence I think they have. Man, I really hope that their writing skills are exactly where they should be. And certainly any parent would want their kid to be ready academically, but if you're like most people, you're gonna be thinking things like this. Just met their roommate. I hope they get along. And if there's a conflict, I sure hope my child has some skills to be able to repair a relationship or to fix things, those relationship skills. You're probably thinking, as my child is taking certain classes, I wonder what happens if there's challenges. Let's say, for example, when I was in my first year of Harvard, I got C's on my first two math midterms. And it was devastating. I was like, I'm not used to getting these C's. How would you want your child to respond to that? Would you want them to think that they're incapable of learning the material, that maybe they're not cut out for it? I know those were thoughts that I had. And this is what SEL researchers call growth mindset. Do you believe you can learn anything? And this is something I would imagine that if you've dropped your child off at college and you're driving away, you're hoping that your child has the confidence and belief in themselves, that they can master and learn in any area. You're probably going to be wondering what happens if my child tries out for some things. Maybe they try out for theater, or they try out for a sport, or they used to play volleyball. They don't make the team, but there's some sort of failure in some sort of key activity they have. You're going to be wondering, hey, I hope my child has thought about how to bounce back from failure. Or maybe my child has thought about how to bounce back by trying something else and not being stuck on one thing. Again, these are social emotional competencies. It's what researchers call agency and locus of control, whether it's internal or external. We have no power. Your child has no power if they're focused on all the external things, what a coach did, what somebody else did. All our power comes as human beings from viewing ourselves as agents, focusing on what we can do, not what we can't do. And don't you think if that parent is driving away, they're going to be wondering and hoping that their child has high agency, knows how to operate within their internal locus of control? I could go on and on and on. When you drop your child off, do you want them to have the ability to set their own goals? You want them to be able to pull out a notebook or some sort of digital device and say, hey, here's my goals, here's my classes, my activities, here's where I want to be by the end of the semester. Do you want them to have the ability to create that compass for themselves? Or do you want to need to call them every time to make sure they're on track and that they have the right goals and all those things? Well, this is what social emotional learning does. Social emotional learning empowers young people with all these skills to build relationships that are healthy and where both parties benefit, to set goals and direction for oneself, to create healthy coping to stress. Your child is going to face stress when they're in any environment, and we can teach kids to understand the difference between healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms. And one of the things I love to tell kids is about their sunlight activities. Have some things that are good for you, that bring you joy and happiness. It might be working out. It might be talking to a friend. It might be playing the guitar a little bit. And when your child understands that they have access to these sunlight activities that are healthy coping mechanisms, they respond better to stress. Do you want your child to know that before they go to college, or do you want them to enter college without any knowledge of their coping mechanisms and how they respond to stress? How about time management? A lot of the kids I know in college who struggled, it wasn't because they weren't smart enough. They didn't manage their time well. When you're driving away and you've dropped your child off, or you're thinking back to dropping your child off, this already happened for you, don't you want to know that your child has the ability to manage their resources well and to create good study spaces for themselves and all those things? This is why social emotional learning matters. It's why I dedicated 20 years of my life to advancing the field of social emotional learning. It's why I can plan to continue to do that. I remember for myself when I was starting my college career, my parents didn't drop me off. I started off Harvard just by myself and moved myself in. But what was more important to me than having my parents there, quite frankly, was I had the SEL competencies. I knew how to set goals. I knew how to create friendships. I knew how to do these things. And that ultimately powered a lot of my college career. And I think all kids can benefit from having these SEL skills. Now, here's a key question. Do you think that the kids will just figure this out for themselves for the first time when they're 18 by themselves in college or at a workforce? Or do you think it's better to teach these skills early on, starting in pre-K and kindergarten and elementary and middle school and high school, so by the time your kid is dropped off, they've already learned these things. They've already kind of have this extra lens, in the same way that math is a lens to view the world. And when you can read, you can see things and understand things. SEL also gives you a powerful lens of internal knowledge, self-knowledge, knowledge of others that you can use to power your future and to solve problems and create opportunity. I believe kids should start learning this as soon as possible. Even with my 2-year-old, I work on little SEL things, believe it or not, all the way up to my 14-year-old. And I believe that kids all over the world benefit from us coming together as adults and figuring out good, sound ways to build these competencies in our next generation. So happy SEL Day. Gives you one way of thinking about why social emotional learning matters. And thanks for taking some time to celebrate with me.